Hey everyone, it's Clara and I'm back with another one of my science chats. So today I'm really excited to be talking to Dr Pranoti Kshirsagar. Pranoti is an amazing human being that I met at a conference in Berlin in 2019 called iScientist, and we actually talk a little bit about that conference towards the end of our chat. And Pranoti lives in Germany, and it was in Germany that I met them, and so this is our first international one, I guess. And they're also, just like I say, they're an amazing human being. They do a lot of outreach and science communications, including podcasts. I've been on one of their podcasts, and they have Twitter takeover. So I'll put the links for the things that Pranoti runs down below. Like I say, there's podcasts and there's a YouTube channel and there's a Twitter channel where Pranoti gets material scientists take over and talk about their work for a week. So we're in similar science communication, and she's just such a great person to chat to. I just have so much fun, and I'm just really excited to have met her. So hopefully that will come across and we'll get to figure out who she is. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. So thanks so much for joining my call. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Excited to speak with you, Clara. It's always so much fun to talk to you.
I know. I always get really giddy when we're talking. I think there's just something about that. It's just so bubbly and fun, and it gives me the ability to just be silly, which I like. Your laugh and your smile are really infectious. It's brilliant. I love it so much. So, and also you said you do a lot of talking, and it's not very often you're the guest. You're usually the host. So hopefully this will be something exciting and interesting for you.
Yeah, I'm quite excited. It's my first time being featured on someone else's YouTube channel. So I'm quite excited about that. So yeah, let's get started.
Cool. So, do you want to introduce yourself for our viewers? Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, that's a very very simple question, but I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I'm not in a philosophical way.
Oh, I know all about that.
So I'm Pranoti, and I'm a trained material scientist. Materials or nanoscientist, whichever category you want to put me in, whichever box. So my master and PhD work both was about in the nano scale, fabricating or creating nanomaterials and then making use of them, characterizing them, playing with them. Basically, you know all about it. And now I am a product manager at a scientific publishing house, so Springer Nature. I hope you know about Springer and Nature.
Well, I do at least, yeah.
I mean, they're known for books and some journals here and there and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a product manager there for one of their databases, which is a research tool for nanoscientists to make life easier when you're looking for information and stuff. So that's the day job, and then the other side of me is more into like science communication of sorts. So I have a YouTube channel. We create podcasts on a regular basis, and there are a bunch of things that are going around. But I'll stop now with introducing myself. Otherwise, I'll just ramble on.
No, it's nice to hear. It's good, and it's like I say, your enthusiasm for everything you do is really good. And you're right, so you're a material scientist, which is really nice because I met you at a conference and it was a general science conference, and usually when you go to a conference and say I'm a material scientist, people go, a what? And you actually know, which is really good.
Yeah.
So what sort of materials were you researching? What sort of what was your field of research when you were doing your PhD on a kind of not too in-depth material scientist to material scientist, sort of, for people that maybe aren't as familiar with the field.
Yeah, so I worked with a bunch of nanomaterials, all some or the other forms of carbon. So the most common, I guess people will know graphene, the wonder material of the 21st century. Yay. I work with graphene. I also work with rolled up graphene, so carbon nanotubes, basically, or carbon nanostructures, whatever you call it. I also worked a little bit with polymers, so PEDOT-PSS. Polydimethyl, I don't remember. You just Google PEDOT-PSS. It's a conductive polymer.
Honestly, you could have said anything and it'd have been like, oh, right, cool, because I don't know either. Although, conductive polymer, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was also fascinated by it because in my head, polymers are insulators, right?
Yeah.
This polymers to insulate stuff. But this is a conductive polymer, which can be to a certain extent transparent-ish, depending on the thickness and stuff. But yeah, that's what I work with. Polymers, 2D materials, 1D materials, if they work staggering, I don't know.
Yeah, and what was the point of those materials? Were they for a particular? I mean, you said they're conductive, but I think especially graphene's something we hear about quite a lot. I'm from Manchester, and there's the Graphene Centre at the University of Manchester, and I just had a look, and they happen to have jobs. But and as a proud Mancunian, it's nice that it was discovered in Manchester. But I mean, we often hear about it, but I think maybe outside of the materials world, most people are like, "That's great. Why do we care? What does it do?"
Yeah. So there are quite a lot of applications of graphene, and I think recently, or there are several things coming up on a regular basis. There was this graphene dress that some company created, and there was a graphene helmet, graphene running shoes, graphene bikes, and I was not involved with any of those. All I did was read up and be like, oh, that's cool. But what I did during my PhD was, especially with graphene, to put it very simply, so I basically created, or rather we, because we were a team, we created we created devices to spy on neurons. I mean, to put it like in a super simple way, to spy on brain cells or heart cells. It's that simple, so to say, where I can go into the details. So what the cells do, the way they communicate, you probably know this, is that there is an electrical signal. When one neuron is talking to another neuron, there is an electrical signal because of the different channels that are in this biological. And there is a way to detect these electrical signals. And the way you do it is that, let's say there is a cell and this is your sensing device. Let's call it a sensing device for now. And when the cell comes either directly in contact with the sensing device or close to your device, that's how you detect this electrical activity. And this is called electrophysiology. This method is called electrophysiology, and it's more complicated than just the cells coming and sitting on your sensing device. So this sensing device is basically, it's an electrode, it could be of any dimension. So the ones we had were 30 micrometer diameter. So really tiny. Why am I doing this? This is really tiny, really big. Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, I often say like anything that's 2 micron is too big for me. So 30 micrometers, I'm like huge.
Yeah, they're quite big. They were in the micro scale, their size, and now these electrodes were made out of graphene. So that's where the nano part comes in. And the reason why we went for graphene is that while doing this electrophysiology or recording electrical activity, we wanted to look at the cells. We wanted to see which cell are we recording from, how far is it, best case scenario, how far is it from our electrode, and do more, like get to know more about the cells and how they communicate, how they interact with each other. And that's why we need a transparent electrode, so that even if, because when there is a cell sitting on top of your electrode, you can't really go with the optical microscope from the top. You have to go from the bottom. That's the only way to look at this interface between the electrode and the cell. And that's why we needed transparent electrode. That's why we went for graphene, and to some cases also carbon nanotubes. And then, of course, graphene itself was not enough, because graphene has really good conductivity in plane, but out of the plane is where it gets a bit wonky. And that's where we needed this conductive polymer, so P.PSS. So we coated our graphene electrode, or decorated, however you call it. We decorated our graphene electrode with P.PSS layer, so that graphene is still conducting, but the majority of cell signal picking is happening by the P.PSS, because they are better in conducting the electrical signals, or picking up the signal, basically.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Huh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, there's so much research that goes on that people don't really think about, behind the scenes. And sometimes, I think I've given an example in the past of, I got into material science by making basically crisp packets to keep your bags of crisps fresh, but then there's so much more than that, and there's so many different things that you got to think about. And I especially material science, it's such a big, wide, broad field, and there's so many different applications that we need. And usually, quite often, I feel, not always, but quite often, they are trying to solve a problem, to try and do something, to try and achieve something in particular. So it's always really cool. So even though we're both material scientists, like, that's not really something that I knew about. There's a lot that you've just told me there, and I'm sure it's the same, with what I do. In fact, actually, whenever I change groups, I'm like, oh, right, we do this? Oh, cool. And we're using similar building blocks in all those different groups, which is why I've jumped around. But sometimes I'm talking to other people and I'm like, oh, I had no idea. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm still so fascinated every time I speak to a fellow material scientist, or a scientist in general as well, and just catching up after a long day of a conference or anything like that. And then you get into those details and you're like, oh, right, this is so cool. I never thought about this. I never thought a material scientist would work in, for example, keeping the crisps fresh.
Yeah.
It's like, what? But yeah, I completely agree. And I nerd out every time I visit, now with my current job, I get to visit several different labs. I used to get to visit several different labs before Corona time. So, and then I always ask for a lab tour, because that is like my way of staying in touch with science a little bit. And then, of course, and I get into like, oh, so which material? So what do you do exactly? What kind of characterization? Why did you choose that? And then they are always like, okay, we can tell you more about it, absolutely. But it's so cool. I'm always so fascinated by visiting these labs. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and it goes to show that science will get. I want to talk about two different things at the same time here, so I'm just gonna pick one. But we'll come back to your day job. But it shows that there's so many different routes that you can go into from science, and so many different things. And also, you're working for a publisher, and people just sort of assume that, oh, you've done writing or English or editing or whatever, and it's like, no, actually, it's scientists doing the science editing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, I think this brings us really nicely into the science communication side of it as well, because so you have a channel, a YouTube channel, and you have a Twitter feed, and you are highlighting material scientists and getting them to talk about their material science. And it's not just science in general. And I'm doing these talks, and it's sort of like I'm talking to scientists, but you actually have like this account trying to show different types of material science and the variation. And it's a passion project, right? You're doing it for fun on your own time. Why?
Yeah, absolutely, it's a passion project, and I'm doing it for fun. And the idea was basically that I'm fascinated by materials and nanoscience, and I'm still pretty sure that there are people who would be fascinated once they know about what materials and nanoscience is, and it has so much to offer. It has such variation, bag of crisps to biology, like recording from like cells, and it probably maybe using similar materials or a material from the same element. It might be. So there is so much diversity there, and there is just so much exciting research that is happening, and the scientists are so cool. I mean, I always say this, that I still get to hang out with the cool kids who are the scientists. So that's kind of my one of the reasons why I started the Twitter account, the Real Scientist Nano, and I wanted to dedicate it, or rather, I wanted to create a platform completely for materials or nanoscientists. Because as a material scientist, at least it happened with me quite often, that physicists thought that I'm a chemist, and the chemists thought that I'm a physicist, and then if both of them were in the room together, they were like, engineers, you're not one of us. And then let's not even get started with biologists.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to create a platform where everyone can come, be it if you're a hardcore chemist and a little bit of materials and nanoscience you do, you're still welcome. Take over the account and tell everyone how what is your version of materials or nanoscience? Because your version, Clara, is different than my version, clearly, with the bag of crisps that I've imagined. So cool. So yeah, that was basically the idea behind it, and that's mainly why I started the podcast series and also the Twitter account.
Cool. So what's the Twitter account called again? And I will put the link below, by the way.
Okay, thanks. So it's Real Sci _Nano. Real Sci for Real Scientist _Nano. But the handle is Real Sci _Nano.
Yeah, so like I say, I'll make sure that I put the link below so that people can find it. Yeah. And then, so you did you do the Twitter account first, and then you decided to start doing the YouTube as well? Because you started doing. Which way round was it?
It was the other way around. So the YouTube channel came first. The Science Talk, the YouTube channel, it came first. It was in the last year of my PhD, or somewhere midway through my PhD, I started thinking, okay, what can I do? What kind of science communication do I want to do? And then back then, this was 2017, end of 2017 or beginning of 2018. And I was watching these 73 questions with Vogue. I don't know if you know this series, that there is just a person following a celebrity and asking them 73 questions, like where was your last holiday? What is your, I don't know, coffee or tea, whatever, all kinds of fun questions. And I found that concept so fascinating that I was like, I'm going to do this with scientists. And that time it wasn't like materials and nanoscientists. It could be all kinds of scientists are welcome. So that's basically how the YouTube channel started. That I want to treat scientists as if they are celebrities. Because they are, like in my head they are, in my view they are. So that's, YouTube channel is my way of showing people what goes on in my head to a certain extent. And then there were more and more themes that were developed and that started like, so the 73 questions with Vogue equivalent became 42 questions because, well, 42 is the answer to everything. First, then we developed My First Science. Then there is In Other Words. Then there is Listen Up. And now there is the Under the Microscope, which is the podcast series. So yeah, that was your question, right? Sorry, I digressed quite a bit here.
I love that you dropped in a 42 reference. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, today that we're recording this, today
is the 42nd week.
Yeah, it's I think it's an anniversary of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy coming out as well. I believe. I think I saw something earlier today. So the irony is, the coincidences are strong today.
Yeah, it's all connected somehow.
Always. So you've got different YouTube channels, and again, we can put the links in the description. But so which, what channels do you want to? What are they called? That's the question. What are they called?
So there's only one channel that has several different playlists or several different formats. So the YouTube channel is called the Science Talk.
Yep.
And it basically has all of these different themes or different categories of content. Like, In Other Words, for example, is about where scientific terms or scientific papers are explained in simple words.
Cool.
So that's the idea for the In Other Words. And that's also one of the reasons, I don't know if you remember, in the podcast that we recorded, one of the questions was the experiment that you're proud of, and explain it to us in other words. So that's where the connection was. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. That was in a different time. I mean, we did that over the internet because you're in Germany and I'm in the UK. And now it's become a lot more common to do these over the internet, obviously. Sorry, I misspoke when I said YouTube channels. I did realise that I have different playlists on this channel as well. So, I know. And for people listening to the podcast, I have different... Yeah, that's it. I've been changing them and releasing them as podcasts as well, true podcasts. So I have to remember, if you're listening to this as a podcast, then it's a YouTube channel, and I have different playlists, and so do you.
You're so professional, Clara. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I'm all about it. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. Yeah. So, and I think. Am I right that I saw that it was a year anniversary since you started doing? Was that the Twitter takeovers or the YouTube channel? What was that?
So it was the anniversary of the Twitter account plus the podcast. So the podcast series and the Twitter account started together.
Yeah.
So all the curators are featured on the podcast. So the first curator of the Real Scientist School Nano is the first Under the Microscope guest. Episode 1 guest. So it was the anniversary, yes. That's okay. Sorry to bring back the 42 again, but we counted. In the last 1 year, we had 42 guests and 84 podcasts, because then every guest has 2 podcasts. So yeah, it was the anniversary. Yeah.
Did you do 42 on purpose?
No. No, honestly not. No, I mean, if it was up to me, I would have 52 people. Yeah. But we had to take breaks, like Christmas breaks and summer breaks and all. But it's nice when things. Yeah, of course it was on purpose. Yes, 42. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Clara.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it was completely on purpose.
No, and I mean, yeah. So, for any of the listeners, I did do one early on, and I think there was a Twitter takeover that came with that as well, and I think it was like the first time I'd ever done a Twitter takeover, and so I don't know, it was really unusual for me to do it, and it was the first time, and I was like, I don't know what people want to hear, because I don't know, on my Twitter I just put out whatever random thought is in my head. So I can not tweet for 3 weeks, and then I can. Yesterday I put out pictures of my plants, you know. So I never know, and I felt like, oh no, I have to have content and what sort of thing, and I want it to be right, and then I started making pictures. I wanted to explain everything with pictures, and so all of a sudden I went down that rabbit hole of like trying to animate all my science, basically trying to draw like a whole bunch of the stuff. And it's actually what got me one of the playlists on my channel is me animating my science or animating science. And I'm using animated loosely, you know, I'm doing it all in PowerPoint, but things move and things collide and stuff.
That's animation.
Well, it is. It's just, you know, it's using my skills, and even then I think I've improved. But yeah, I've actually it actually, because of you saying, oh, give us some pictures, and it's like that's how it evolved into me making these animations. And then I started doing talks with these animations, and then I thought, well, I should put these on YouTube, and now I'm doing this. So it's all kind of due to you, really. So there you go.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I mean, the animation, I still remember your presentation at the iScientist conference. This was last year, it was in 2019. And I still remember it. Yeah. He's a science communicator. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it was just like 2 slides about your science, and the rest of the talk was not scientific.
Yeah.
But in those first 2 slides, I was like, yeah. Clara, I need to have her on the podcast and take over the Twitter account, because she knows how to communicate science. Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go for it. No, please.
I still remember we were trying to come up with a title, and then you came up with playing snooker with atoms, because that was the best way to explain what you do. So.
Yeah, I still love that title. I've got like 2 that I've been using. I've been using the same titles for a while, and one of them was that one, and then there's another one that I've been using for a little while. It's one of those things. I've got like two titles, and then 2 photographs that I use for all the publicity. Like anytime anyone's like, "Have you got a picture?" I've got 2. And I use the same ones, and my hair is like completely different colors and completely different. In fact, one of them I don't think I've even got most of the tattoos, but it's like I'm not taking pictures.
You should take pictures. You should take more pictures. Just for fun.
I don't know. I never like what I see. I don't mind doing videos, but I don't like what I see in terms of photographs. I never have. It's just part of me. I'm notoriously camera dodgy, a notorious camera dodger, but I should get some more at some point, just because, you know, like I say, I think my hair looks so different now that I really need to update my pictures just because of that. Although weirdly enough, for someone that hates photographs, I did 2 photo shoots 2 weeks ago, which was I know, and I should say, like, I think I've done 4 photo shoots in about 10 years, and 2 of them were 2 weeks ago.
So you will definitely have some pictures, some new pictures, more updated pictures.
Well, no, because they were one was for an art project for a local artist, so that was it was different. And the other one was for a magazine. In fact, it was for Nature. So.
Oh really? Wow! Well, that picture you can definitely use, I hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks. So the photographer who came was awesome. And the picture was not what I expected for a science publication, basically. Like, yeah, I got on really well with the photographer, and I'm really excited to see it. And like I say, it is not the sort of picture that I expect to see in a science publication at all. Like
Okay.
it was more like a rock album cover, I think. Like by the time we'd done it, it was awesome. Yeah,
Oh, I'm so excited to see that picture now. Do you know where it
yeah.
will be published? Is it
I
part
have
of the
no
magazine?
idea.
Oh,
It'll be at
okay.
some point. I think the photographer's got to send it over, and I've not done the interview yet. But yeah, so it's kind of. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. That should be really cool.
I'm super excited to see that picture. Oh, now the hype is up.
Well, the funny thing is, like, usually if people come in and they want to photograph you in the lab, and so it's like, oh, can you put a white lab coat on? Can you wear? Can you look down this microscope? Can you look interested at this machine? So I was expecting that, and she was like, no, like, no, we're not doing it like that. We're doing a proper picture. I was like,
So can you give us some hints? Like, did you do some science while taking the pictures, or did you pretend to do science, or was there no science involved but only scientific environment?
I was sat in front of one of the machines in our laboratory. So
Ah, okay, okay,
yeah,
all right.
but I've got my feet up on a desk and all sorts. It's great.
Ah, that's so cool. Oh, I'm excited to see that picture. Send it to when the article or the magazine or whatever is out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, like I say, I enjoy talking about science, and I enjoy communicating. Um, and I even enjoy doing these videos. I don't mind seeing myself on video, but yeah, photographs are very different. And like I say, I really need to update. But no, like I say, it's yeah, doing that Twitter takeover for your Twitter channel was like, it really gave me a push to do some stuff and change the way I do it. And yeah, and it's nice that you saw my slides and was like, oh yes, we need this person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad if I had a small part to play in what you're doing right now. I'm happy
Oh,
to
you
hear about
do.
that.
No, definitely. But and that's the thing. You obviously have a passion for science communication. Is that, and you've got this YouTube video. I mean, I always wonder, like, I enjoy the science communication, but I wonder how much you can turn it into a career, whether it's something that will bring in money, whether it's something you can do full time. And I think we need more people to be able to do that. Um, and obviously, so I mean, this isn't you do work for a journal, which is, and I find that science communication is a little bit different. But what's your thoughts? I mean, do you think that there is a market for people who do science communication full time? And I mean, obviously, you hope so, and I hope so. But what do you think? I mean, do you think that we will start treating our scientists like celebrities, like you were saying earlier? Is that possible?
I think I think at this point it is happening to a certain extent. So if you think about it, especially with these giant prizes like Nobel Prize, for example, when a scientist wins a Nobel Prize, that person is definitely a celebrity. That person becomes a celebrity overnight, kind of overnight to the world, but kind of coming for the people around them. Um, and I mean, be able to start treating the rest of the scientists or majority of scientists who don't win the Nobel Prize as celebrities. I mean, probably not as celebrities. That might be a bit too. That would be, I would say, the next step. But the first step would be to see them. First of all, see them, recognize them, and then look at them as human beings, because human beings who do extraordinary things. I mean, a scientist's life is fun, but it's also hard. It's not like it's not a cakewalk. It's really, really tough. And I feel that people need to recognize that, or rather, we as science communicators, we need to tell people that feed scientists around you, recognize scientists around you, and raise your kids to be interested in science. And if they do want to become a scientist, encourage them and let them do it, because then it comes to full circle. I see that as more of a that's the direction that I would like to see we are headed towards. And regarding the other question that you mentioned, or the point, if science communication can become a full-time employment or enough to sustain, to start there. I think in Germany, it's still, we are still a bit away from it, because in general, that's just my feeling, that's just my observation. People, not just when it comes to science, but all the other stuff, just being present on digital platforms. So that is something which is a lot of people are not that keen on doing. But having said that, we do have quite a bunch of amazing science communicators in Germany, like Maisi, she mostly does science communication in German. And she just, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, she won the most prestigious honor from the president of Germany. So science communicators are being recognized. But making it a full-time employment, I feel that the universities or companies or institutions, research institutions, they are still yet to uncover the power of science communication. They are yet to uncover how cool it is. And I'm generalizing it when I'm saying that they, but this is very, it changes on a regional basis. But in Germany, for sure, we still need more government-funded projects or universities or research institutions to actually take science communication seriously. I feel, because once they take it seriously, that's when we can go towards more of a full-time employment and not a temporary, or even if it's I don't know. Yeah, that's.
It's interesting what you said about people that win Nobel Prizes, because there's no doubt that the people that win Nobel Prizes, I mean, that's so prestigious, and there is that sort of prestige and celebrity status with that. But I know, and this is in no way diminishing the work that they're doing, but I know that I've seen a couple of Nobel Prize winners speak, do, presentations, and it's quite dry. And like I say, it's in no way diminishing the science that they're doing, but I'm not sure that they're science communicators as such. I think they're very much got this researcher, and that is a generalization, and I'm sure there are some people who do amazing, really fun, but I know that the few that I've seen have been, I mean, it's been quite dry, I think, is the thing. And I was actually chatting with another guest on here about the future of teaching as well, the future of lecturing, because I think if you're a good science communicator, surely we want our science lecturers to be good science communicators. And I don't know about you, but I had a whole bunch of bad ones. Amazing people, very smart, very knowledgeable, but very dry. And we were talking about, trying to, and so I think we should be taking this more seriously, because I think if we encourage our future lecturers and our future teachers to do this outreach, and we recognize those skills, then there's more likelihood that they'll go into maybe teaching or lecturing. I don't know what you think.
I mean, yeah, that's a very good point, and good that you brought it up, Clara. I mean, you're absolutely right. Being a scientist, I mean, one of the responsibilities, especially in the academic setting, if you're a scientist, is also to mentor and pass your knowledge on to the next generation. And a lot of this is also about, if you're teaching class of 50 or class of 100 or class of 200, you're communicating your science. You might call it teaching, but in a way you are communicating science. and they will be graded. There would be exams, etc., all that thing. But at the core of it, what you're doing is you're communicating science. So as a teacher, you absolutely have to know how to effectively communicate science, because being a teacher, I think, is a huge responsibility. And I have utmost respect for all the teachers, especially with the current times, like going virtual and trying to figure out Zoom and trying to figure out how to record lectures and stuff. It's a tough job. And what makes it even a little bit easier is that if you have been trained to communicate your science, if either it comes to you naturally, or the university tells you that, okay, Clara, you're going to take 5 classes teach 5 classes next semester. We feel that you should take this science communication workshop or a lecture or whatever, so that we train you to make sure that your life is slightly easier, so that you know the tools and tricks and some little bit tricks here and there. So I think teaching is extremely important point to consider when we are talking about science communication. Absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah, and I feel, and again, I don't know what it's like in Germany, and again, it's a generalization, but I feel like in the UK, it's generally that you're a scientist and then you have to teach, and I feel like you're not given the time to really develop it. You either have a heavy workload or you don't have the time. You're not given those courses and those skills, and for a lot of people, I feel like it's more of a burden to teach than it is something that people want to do in terms of university, in terms of science. And again, that is a generalization, but it seems like it's like, well, if you're going to do research, you're going to get this grant, you have to commit to doing some lecturing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it similar in Germany? I don't know if you know.
So if you get funding, then you have to teach?
Yeah, or rather just that, a lot of people that are lecturing in the universities in science in the UK, I know that a lot of them are doing it because they have to if they want to carry on doing their research rather than because they want to.
Yeah, I don't know much about the system itself, because I kind of got out of the academic system or research right after my PhD. Or before my PhD actually. But from my understanding, if you're employed by the university, and most of the universities or all universities in Germany are state funded or like funded by the government. And if you are funded by the government, then you have to do some sort of teaching. And it depends then if you're a junior lecturer, if you're a full professor, a junior professor, or a full professor. Because in Germany, I think in the UK, you have this associate, assistant, professor to a certain extent. So in Germany, yes, you do have to teach if you're employed by a university, which is the case for most people. And I mean, I just feel that it's more of a, I don't know if it's a burden, but in I don't know, I'm generalizing it. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible because I don't know much about it. But I can imagine it being a burden for people. And I feel that if you just, while you're training to be a scientist during your master or during your PhD or during your postdoc even, if there is certain way that the system is like, okay, this is mandatory for you to take this one course of teaching or science communication, or call it whatever you want. And then you take that course, and after taking that course, you know the basics of it. And after that, you make an informed decision that, okay, as a scientist, I don't want to do this. As a scientist, I do not want to teach. As a scientist, I do want to teach. So I feel that needs to be there, because right now, if you are a professor, you have to teach. So we are in that, like everyone has to do the same thing. But I think the system can be a bit more flexible. If we can go towards a bit of solutioning that, okay, Clara says she does not want to teach, Pranoti says she wants to teach, then there are different sets of KPIs set by the university for Clara, who is a scientist, a very good scientist, but doesn't teach. Pranoti is a good scientist, kind of good scientist, but is teaching or something like that. I feel that that's very, very important. And that then goes together with having like making paying your rent while communicating science. That's like it comes down to that. That if it is integrated into the system, if it is part of the system, the science communication is part of the system in some or the other way, then there would be more possibilities for science communicators to also grow and more avenues for them also to pay their rent with science communication, tying it back.
Yeah, I think I probably didn't put it very well, and I probably like say no offense to any lecturers that are watching, because I mean there's some amazing people out there, but I know, I mean I am well aware that I've had lecturers and they've had no formal training in teaching or science communication. I know that it's something that they've had to do, but there's not been that training, there's not been that formal thing. And I think in the UK, more and more, we're expecting people to have some sort of formal qualification. If you're lecturing, then you should have done this course. But I know that a lot of people that have been doing it for a while aren't. I think it's only really new people coming through that are getting that training. It's how it seems to me, and I realise, I am not lecturing. I don't lecture. I am just in the lab, which I keep on saying works really well for me because I don't like. It means that I don't have to worry about a schedule. I'm not very good with, but at the same time, I have lectured. I did during my PhD, and I really enjoyed it. I was doing labs, and it was really good fun. To be honest, Oxford's a weird place to lecture. I think I'd like to do it, but yeah. It just works slightly different in Oxford compared to the rest of the UK, never mind, Europe.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, Oxford's unusual.
It's a bubble in itself, huh?
Oxford, and yeah, it is. It really is. So, I mean, talking of science communication, obviously a big thing for people in, if you're doing research is to publish. And so you're working for, a rather well-known publisher, I'd say. So what is it that you're doing? You talked about managing the databases. What's your day job?
Yeah, so I work at Springer Nature. So Springer is mainly known for books and Nature is mainly known for the journals. And I must start by saying that I'm not an editor, neither of the books or of the journals. I'm not on the editorial side. So if you send a manuscript, I'm not the one who's reading it. I'm not the one making sure that it gets to the reviewers and everything that our editors do. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
What I am doing, so my job title is Product Manager, Nanoscience and Technology. So what that entails is that what is my product? So let's go one by one. What is the product? The product is it's a database called Nano. So the URL is nano.nature.com, and it's made by Nature Research. And the idea is to bring all the information about nanoscience and technology under one umbrella. So in one place, that is the Nano Database. Now, what do we mean by information? So the information is basically everything that is relevant for the field, that is coming or published in peer-reviewed journal articles, not just our journals, but journals from other publishing houses as well. That is important, curated, trustworthy information, and patents. So articles and patents are the two main categories out of the three on the Nano Database, and the third category is Nanomaterial Summary. So everything that is reported about a nanomaterial, so how to synthesize it, how to characterize it, what are the properties of this nanomaterial, everything that has been reported, let's say about graphene or carbon nanotubes or any other nanomaterial, all this information is extracted manually and displayed in a table form. So that's what the Nano Database is. So cool,
Wow.
no? I know,
So
right?
so does that mean that you spend all day reading journals and patents and books?
Well, so I'm not doing it myself, but we have a team of more than 60 or 70 people who are daily doing this thing. They're reading papers, they're reading patents, and extracting all this information manually. We have people doing that. We have experts doing that, and that's their job. Just to read,
Wow.
just to read papers, just to read patents. Because we all do this, right? As scientists, I have done the
Yeah.
same thing. You are doing this on a regular basis, like reading papers and be like, okay, how to do what are the sputtering parameters that they reported? You have your own database,
Yeah.
right? You have your own version of a database. And what Nano is that we try to have it as flexible as possible. So based on the keywords that you put in the search box, we try to give you the information that is as close or as relevant for you as possible. So that's the product. Okay, that's Nano. And I'm
Wow.
the product manager. So I'm managing the product. What does that mean? So that means that I have to take care of not just me, but the product management team. We take care of making sure, first of all, there is content that is constantly coming in, that the product is developed on a regular basis, that everything looks fine from the user interface point of view. Just like everything that has to do with the product from the back end, we have some amazing people that we work with, and we collaborate on a regular basis. And we tell them that, okay, yeah, because I've been a nanoscientist, so I know how a nanoscientist thinks.
Yeah.
So that is one part of my job, making sure the product is developed and going in the right direction. And by right direction, what we mean is going as close to what a nanoscientist expects or needs. Then there is also other parts of my job um, which is which goes with marketing or with sales. So basically, I'm talking to a lot of researchers uh, from all around the world almost, and talking to them and checking with them. Okay, what is your research? Tell me about your research. And then we together evaluate. Okay, does Nano really help you? And if it does, then we talk about, okay, let's see how to get you the access to make sure of doing that. So that's what me as a product manager I'm doing. So I'm making sure that my product is at the center, and then the product is happy and everyone is nurturing it at all times. Yeah.
Oh, and that's something. I mean, I hadn't even considered that. I hadn't even thought of that, and I know we sort of talked about it earlier. And this is why I think it's really important. I wanted to have you on it because it's different. We need scientists to be doing this job. We need people to be doing this, and you just wouldn't have thought of it as a potential career route as a career. I didn't even realize this was going on, to be honest. I just had no idea. And also, you mentioned patents of picking it out, but I know that's another field where over the last few years I've heard more and more from scientists that have got into patents, and I'm like, I never thought about this. I thought that was a law. You did law and it wasn't scientists, but it's like, actually, no, we need scientists to be able to. If it's law about patents about scientists, then yeah, we need scientists to do these jobs. I
Yeah.
didn't even know this was an option. I didn't even know this was something. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, this was also something which was just until like recently on my YouTube channel, I had a guest, a patent attorney,
Mm.
uh, who is a physicist herself, and she's basically helping scientists, mainly physicists or chemists to a certain extent, like non-organic chemists, engineers and stuff, in translating their innovations into patents, because it's quite a process that we are all very familiar with how to like submit a paper, how to write a paper, how to go about it, what the process is. But for scientists, I feel that patents is still quite a. I didn't know how to read a patent when I was doing science. I had no idea. I was like, no, that's not for me. That's for companies, which is not true. Which is not true. A lot of universities and research institutions, they have patent offices, they have patent support, and they have all the resources that you need. There is usually a protocol to do it. Like if you think you have made an innovation or invention, however you call it. But yeah, it's so fascinating. And with my job, I didn't know that such a thing exists. I'm so happy that I stumbled upon this job offer, and now I'm doing it because I was like, oh, this is so cool. I have to do it.
That's cool. That's really cool. I will. Yeah, you're talking about the pattern. Having been the scientist going through that and being told like, no, broaden it out. No, it's not. Yeah, they want you to write it in a very different way than a paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's an unusual process. Maybe one day I'll even make some money from that patent. Who knows? But be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, I think I've got a really good sort of overview of what you do and also your passions with the science communications and stuff. Obviously, we met at the iScientist conference, which is I mean, it's an international conference, but it's based in Germany. So last year it was in Berlin, and so it was great to meet you. I know that you've just done am I right that you did an interview with the iScientist people recently?
Yes. I did. So this year, this was the fourth time the iScientist was taking place. So the first edition was in 2017. It was in Berlin. 2018 and 2019 was also in Berlin. 19 was where we met. And 2020, this last month, the iScientist took place virtually. It was supposed to happen in Constance, so to the south of Germany. There's this beautiful city or town place.
I think it's a city.
A city? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Because in Germany, I mean, if it's a city, then it's called a city, like Mannheim City, Heidelberg. And I don't remember seeing Constance City, but maybe it's a city. Sorry, Constance people, if you think it's a city. A beautiful place called Constance in the south of Germany. And recently, before the conference, I got in touch with the organizers because, again, fascinating. I found it super fascinating that, first of all, these are mostly PhD students or master's students who are organizing this conference on the side. And this is something also when I was part of the organizing team in 2018, I did as well. And I basically wanted to give them like an hour or two of just like, okay, let your guard down and just talk about the conference because it can get quite stressful. So we recorded a nice video with them where we talked about what iScientist is, who is attending it, what can the people expect when they're attending the conference, and two more questions, I think, which I don't remember now. But yeah, it was quite fun. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, Constance, the winter markets, the Christmas markets in Constance are absolutely beautiful. They're some of the best. So I lived in Zurich for 4 years, and so Constance wasn't that far away. It was just on the other side of the German border. So we went there quite a few times, and so absolutely beautiful. They have this big, beautiful lake, and they set the sort of Christmas markets up in the middle, and it's all lit up with these fairy lights and candles. It's just, it's fairy tale, which is great. So sorry, just fond memories there.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, iScientist. So we met there because it's a conference which is held to show that scientists are diverse. That it's a diverse, that there isn't one type of scientist, and it's specifically, it seems they want to promote different people. So, I mean, I didn't know about it because it started after I left Switzerland. Which is when I would have most likely heard about it. But then I was invited to talk about diversity in STEM, especially from the LGBTI plus point of view. And so you've been on the organizing committee as well, you said?
Yeah, for the 2018. So the iScientist conference gets a fresh batch of organizers every year. So the idea is from my understanding, the idea is to bring in fresh ideas and a fresh experience, because it's quite an experience to organize a conference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was part of the organizing committee team for the 2018 edition. So not last year, the year before that.
Yeah. Currently organizing a conference at the moment, so I know all about that. Yeah, which is also going to be virtual. You put it out there to try and bring a conference to, in my case, Oxford, and then it's like, oh well, we're going to have to do it digitally now. It's like a little disappointed, but it's in some ways it's nice because you don't need to find the same financing as you do if it's different levels of financing. Which
there is no
nice.
Catering, there is no venue,
there's no travel, there's no venue, there's no catering. It's great, so it means that we can concentrate on other things, which is good. But yeah, no, I mean, I loved. It felt iScientist and the conference. I'm part of the. It's the LGBT seminar conference that I'm running. And I felt iScientist was very different to your more standard science conference, because I felt that people were allowed to speak with passion. They were allowed to talk about their experience. They were encouraged to share the good and the bad of science. And so we saw some good science and people were talking about their science, but also we were talking about the culture. And like I say, it felt a lot more open than most conferences that you go to as a scientist. And I don't know, and so it was good. Like I say, I met some amazing people, and I'm so glad to still be in touch with you. But yeah, it just felt a lot more open, and I think we need more of this. We need more of these things, especially the next generation, so that we can change the culture overall. I mean, yeah. I mean, I assume you agree because you were on the organizing committee.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, it's when you say conference, the scientist head directly goes to, okay, scientific talks there are going to be, and I have to be completely like scientific science. But iScientist, I feel that it's about science, of course, about scientists. It's more about scientists than the science itself. So it has to do everything around being a scientist. Everything basically includes or tries to include everything. And it's definitely iScientist. It's like a really nice bubble, a comfort bubble that you don't want to leave after these 3-4 days are over. And we definitely need more of conferences like iScientist. And from what I understand, LGBTQ plus the seminar, it also is it's going in that direction to a certain extent, from what I understand, or is it more about the science itself?
It's interesting. So it's very much everyone has to submit scientific abstracts. So all the talks are on science, but people are able to, we want the talks to be about science, but also we say you can spend say 5 minutes or so talking about your experiences, talking about another hard and fast number there, but yeah, we want people to be open about their experiences in science and the good and the bad, but we mostly want to just get together a whole bunch of scientists and be like, hey, look at all these different science. I know when I went to that conference for the first time, I often say it was the first time I went to a scientific conference and heard people laugh. People just felt like, you know, you could see more passion and people were able to be that. You weren't just trying to do the science and be like a professional, and so people could talk openly and honestly. And like I say, how often do you hear people talk at science conference? And it was the same with iScientist. It had that same feeling that, you know, there was passion. People were talking from the stage and there was passion, and it was a really good diverse lineup. People were talking about, you know, there was talks about race and trans issues and LGBTI plus issues and women in science, and it was just, I saw some fantastic speakers while I was there, who, you know, normally I wouldn't hear speak because they're not in my field. And if you go to a conference, you go to a conference in your field. Yeah, it's just remembering that scientists are people and putting that to the forefront and being able to talk about their experience is just really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I was also speaking with one of the, or several of the attendees from this year. So it was, first of all, it was done virtually, and they managed to maintain the spirit, I must say. They did a fantastic job. So if you need any help with organizing this conference that you are, the LGBTQ seminar, let me know and I can put you in touch with the organizers of the iScientist conference. So we were speaking about how cool iScientist, the conference is and the concept is. And one of the reasons why it's so comfortable is because you know that most of the attendees or all of the attendees or participants of the conference, you're on the same page on so many things. Your morals are aligned. So it's easier to get the conversation going. You don't have to do the small talk if you don't want to. You can just get straight to the point and be like, okay, I'm doing my PhD and I think just as an example, which you wouldn't do at a scientific conference. You would never do that unless you have a comfort zone with the other participants. And I think that's extremely important, to be able to speak openly and have that comfort level to be able to talk about it, and also with passion. So much passion. It was just so heartwarming. It always is so heartwarming. And I mean, as a straight person, I honestly, and the kind of upbringing I've had and the exposure I've had, I haven't had a lot of diversity in my network, so to say, and iScientist changed that heavily changed that, because I just don't know how to go about it. I mean, I didn't know how to go about it, but now with the iScientist conference, I know how to. This is my safe place. This is where I get to open my mind as well, and I'm open to ideas. I know that I can ask a question to you, Clara, and I can ask you in a way that you will understand and not be like, hey, what? Which is probably I won't even ask my other friends. So that's the kind of comfort and that's the kind of passion that iScientist brings and connects people. And I'm so happy that we are still in touch and we are talking now as well. It's so cool.
It is. But and you're right. It's, you know, the people that you've met there, because I think there's this idea that you know, especially I'm looking at the debate around trans rights, and it's a case of people say, oh, well, if you get it wrong, then people will just tear you down and people are scared to ask questions. And I think having that sort of environment where people know that they can ask questions, I mean, you know, and I'm part of a few other groups as well, that part of this group, Tigers in STEM, and because, you know, I've grown up in the UK as a white person, and so and there's certain things that I need to ask, and because I need to learn more, I need to know more, and I just don't have that experience and that perspective, and it's great to have these groups where you can actually, if people genuinely want to learn, to improve, to make things better, we're not going to tear people down. We're gonna answer those questions. If you're genuinely asking for the genuine reasons, for honest reasons to make, then we can speak about it. And so it's really nice to hear that, like you say, iScientist. I mean, there's so much passion at that conference. I mean, the number of times I heard, cheers and, the audience erupts when someone says something in one of their talks or in the response to a question. I think there was one question that I answered and everyone just started shouting. It's like, yeah. And it's like, and normally it's just a very, very polite clapping, and so, like I say, people genuinely care. But it's awesome that things like iScientist exist and other conferences, and I'd love to say that. So I think the LGBTQ plus seminar, it's definitely for LGBTI plus people. That's what it is. Whereas iScientist is more about scientists, and it's a bit broader, and I like that. I like sort of looking outwards. I still think we need our own small pockets of things. I mean, like, there's a Black in STEM conference. We still need those sort of things. But it's nice to also be able to meet other activists from other fields and discuss and open up and honestly make friends, but also make contact as well, mate. It's a great conference. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you feel the same way about the iScientist conference. You're all giddy and like, so it's really nice.
Yeah, it was. I was just really sad when I was leaving because I knew that I don't necessarily have the funding to be able to travel to Germany to go to that conference normally, and it's like, it's this idea that you've been to it, and it's like, oh no, like, I might not be able to come back, But it's nice. I mean, I've been to a few different conferences, and like I said, there's the LGBT seminar. I think that's great, and then I've been to a few other conferences. I went to one in North Cyprus at the end of last year as well, and it was that same sort of thing. It was that, I mean, that was more general. That was academia. And it was LGBT in academia. But there are more of these conferences, and you're seeing them in all different places, and it's great. But at the same time, it was like, oh no, what if I can't come back? And then, of course, this year it was digital. It's like, oh, I could have gone to that, but I was so busy trying to prepare the lab and open up, and it's a weird year.
Yeah, 2020 doesn't count. No. For all the bad things, 2020 doesn't count. From 2019, we jumped straight to 2021. For all the bad things. All the bad things. All the good things, yes, 2020 counts.
Yeah, and there have been good things as well, but definitely. So I'm gonna sort of let you go shortly on here, but I wondered if there was anything that you wanted to talk about that we hadn't covered. I mean, maybe there's not, but maybe there's something, something that you are really happy and excited that you want to talk about, whether it's science or diversity in STEM or whatever, or your job. But maybe you've covered it all. But if there's anything else you'd like to talk about,
well,
that doesn't have to be.
So I would like to say definitely that I didn't know what to expect, but I think we covered everything. Science communication, my job, my science as well. After so long, I got to speak about my science. It was so nice, and talked about iScientist as well. Always great, great speaking about that as well. Other than that, well, I don't really have anything that pops in my mind. I can talk about something that I'm working on at the moment.
Oh, that'd be exciting. Yeah.
Which is mainly focused, and I did like a trial run of it at the iScientist conference last month. So I'm basically putting together like a scientist brand building toolkit, and I would actually like to know what you think about it. So it's basically to establish a scientist digital presence so that they are more discoverable or they are more um, either be it for science communication, be it for professional reasons, whatever. So I'm trying to put together these workshops or trainings on how to make the most out of Twitter as a scientist, how to get started if you're interested in science communication, or how to ace your LinkedIn presence, for example, like how to get the most out of LinkedIn, basically. So I'm trying to put together these trainings or workshops mainly for scientists. I don't know if there is such a thing that exists. I don't know, but I'm trying to put the toolkit together. So I call it Scientist Brand Building Toolkit. That's what I'm working on. I actually would like to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really important, especially at this moment in time. We always hear about the professional side of it, like the papers and the conferences. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I mean, Twitter is. I know so many scientists from Twitter now from different fields, and I'm pretty sure that I've had conference invites because of things like Twitter and LinkedIn. I think it's a really good idea, and yeah, I'm absolutely happy to talk. And even if there is one out there already, and I don't know that there is, but if there is, I'm sure you'll do it better anyway. So yeah.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
Is this a passion project, or is it something that you're doing yourself on your own time?
Yeah, so this is my passion project, again, doing it on my own time. I think in 2020, I just have so much time on my, like at my disposal that I'm just creating these new things and new projects. So part of these workshops will be done by me, and part of them will also be I'll bring in my expert friends, because I have friends who are like really experts at digital marketing. So their perspective is also really fresh, and their perspective is also kind of new. So I'm kind of trying to blend different worlds to bring. At the end of the day, what I want is scientists are interested in building their brand or establishing their digital presence, that they have all these tools if they want to do it, or if and when they want to do it. If they want to get started with LinkedIn, if they want to get started with Twitter, okay, now is the time. Okay, just join our next workshop or next training. And then, yeah, basically have all the tips and tricks that I could have used when I started off. That's,
Oh,
that's the idea. Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, no, I think it is important, and I know that I could market myself better if I, did it by the book and did it properly. There's certain things where it's like, even how you do your thumbnail on YouTube and stuff like that. I know, and also just tweeting more consistently and things like that. I know I could do so much better, but also I keep on flittering around and doing different stuff. So I'm just like, oh well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is also something that I'm also sharing with whoever is attending these workshops or trainings, is that, see, at the end of the day, the idea is to have fun. Are you having fun? If you have fun with tweeting once in 3 weeks, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's you. That's your brand. That's what you are. It's up to you what you want your brand to be, and you shouldn't just tweet just for the sake of it, or you shouldn't be active just for the sake of it. There should be a reason behind it. So as long as you're having fun, you create your own brand, you create your own digital presence. What I do is tell you how to do it, technically how to do it, and there's some tips and tricks here and there how to go about it. But at the end of the day, it completely depends on what you want the brand Clara to be, for example.
And I'm just thinking, we were talking about sort of teaching and research and on all sorts of things, but I think over we've got this with sort of the scientist generation and people sort of my age and your age and people just finishing and graduating, and we've got a different we've got different tools as scientists. We've got different tools at our disposal, and we're doing science in a different way. And hopefully, you know, with me and my YouTube videos doing the animations and stuff, this will all filter through into teaching. It'll filter through into research. I mean, we will have different ways of doing it, and I'm really, once we start to see, you know, all these changes over the last 5 years, you know, when, I mean, social media has been around for longer, but it's really sort of taken off. I'm really curious to see how different the environment in science will be in 5 years' time.
Yeah, that definitely is. That's a cool thought. I mean, if you think about it, 10 years ago, the way people would find collaborators is at conferences.
Yeah.
But now I think it's already happening that you find collaborators and write research projects together and work on research projects together successfully by finding each other on Twitter or liking each other's tweet or retweeting or somehow. So this is like the digital collaboration, digital age of scientific collaboration. Like one aspect of it, of course, but there are so many other things that we're definitely seeing for the world of science as well. So let's talk in 5 years and see.
Yeah, but and the very least, though, what we're doing is that people are able to sort of listen to more stuff that's outside of their field, but also they're getting to see more role models. They're getting to see people like you. You know, they're getting to see more people, and so hopefully it means that more people will feel that they do belong in science, and we're not pushing as many people out. And yeah, I'm excited to see the results. It's one of those things, like, you're doing all this cool stuff and it's like, I don't want to wait. I want it to be ready now.
Yeah. I mean, I always say this, like, I want to live in a world where companies or universities don't need a diversity officer, because that's the normal.
Yeah.
You don't need what diversity? Of course we are diverse. So
yeah.
I want to live in that world.
Oh, me too. How great would that be when it's just, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I keep on saying with my youth groups, my success is when we don't need my youth groups anymore. You know, when the young people that come to my youth group can just go to the other youth groups that are running, that have got the skills in the art or, you know, drama or music or, you know, hockey or whatever it is. My success is when I'm obsolete. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, yeah. Near future, we have that future real soon. In our lifetime, at least. Let's hope for that.
It'll happen. Well, thank you so much. Like I say, I'll put your links for your Twitter and your YouTube below. And with that, thank you so much for chatting. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It was so lovely speaking with you, Clara. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. My first feature, yay!
And it was a pleasure. It was so much fun. And it was just, and you know, it was a great excuse to talk to you again as well.
Yeah, it's been a while, yeah. We should record more podcasts to find reasons to talk.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really nice. Take care, Clara. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so that's Pranoti. Yeah, just so full of enthusiasm and excitement, and it's just a real pleasure to be chatting with her every time I do get the opportunity to, which, you know, down the years has been a couple of times. I'm really grateful that she had the time to come on this podcast and chat, and I will release this as a podcast as well as YouTube. Yeah, and it was just really great to be able to talk about the outreach that she does, as well as her research and her day job, and also iScientist. Like I say, is a fantastic conference which runs in Germany. So with that, thanks very much. If you can, like, subscribe the channel. If you're watching this, or rather listening to this as a podcast, then you know, follow me, I guess. I don't really know how it works, but yeah, certainly on YouTube it helps if you subscribe. And until next time, take it easy and bye bye.